So ultimately in 85, we picked up the kids, and they were young, they were 12 and 14, and moved to Los Angeles. And that's when, but I was protected in a certain way because I had the contract of RoboCop, which I had rejected first because I thought it was very silly. And I couldn't even deal with something like that. The future of law enforcement, and I looked through a couple of pages and said, well, this is crazy, you know. I'm not going to a movie about a robot. I mean, kidding, I'm about people, you know. I'm an artist, really. And so I threw it away. And when my wife, we were in holidays in the south of France, my wife picked it up from the beach and started to read it. And then when we were walking home, and I said, did you read that idiotic script? And she said, well, yeah, it's idiotic, but if you look at it more as like a comic book, and if you look at the different layers that are in the script, did you notice that? I said, layers? I didn't see any layers. I thought it was just a silly story about a guy gets killed because a robot and shoots everybody. She said, no, you should read it again. It has something that I'm sure could appeal to you on a deeper level. So I followed her advice. I took my dictionary because a lot of words I didn't understand because it was written in science fiction jargon, isn't it? Which is a bit difficult. And I started to go through it, and then I started to think, oh, this is really interesting because it's also a man looking for his own identity. He loses his identity, he loses the paradise that he was living in with his wife and his child, and they're gone. Even if they're still there, he cannot reach them anymore because he cannot connect in his brain. And so he has to, slowly in the movie, of course, you start to realize that he starts to remember the past, and that there is this search for the lost paradise. I think I'm guilty in over directing them. And basically there have been complaints, and sometimes many complaints, by actors that felt that because I had such a strong staging in my head, and that the camera moves and were so basically set in my head, that I didn't give them much freedom, basically. I still have a bit to learn that when actors are really good, that you have to profit, you have to use that and let them go. And I'm too inclined to say, oh no, I have this in mind, and then you have to really, you cannot stay there longer than a quarter of a second there, you know, because the camera has to really move to the side, and you really have to go now, because otherwise the camera hangs there too long, and I arrive too late on place B, coming from A, and on place B you have to meet the actor, and if you come too late, then the actor is already there, and basically the actor has to be there, the second actor, because he has something else happening a minute later, or something that I have to shoot to in this way.